Welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio, a program that values the potential of knowledge, collaboration, and growth. The show is hosted by Denise Griffitts, who is known as an intensely curious nerd in stilettos. Each Wednesday, she is joined by co-host Ben Gay III, a renowned figure in the sales world. Ben is recognized for introducing The Closers, one of the most popular and powerful sales training materials ever produced. Having been mentored by Dr. Napoleon Hill himself, Ben has gained a wealth of knowledge in sales and life. Throughout the show, Denise and Ben delve into the world of sales, entrepreneurship, and success, exploring Ben's vast experience from guiding and mentoring countless professionals to achieve unparalleled success in their careers. Together, they offer unmatched guidance to listeners seeking success in their professional endeavors.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of the Closers Inner Circle podcast, hosted by Denise Griffitts and Ben Gay III on Your Partner in Success Radio. Ben joins me each Wednesday for the Closers Inner Circle podcast, and that's important because we are discussing sales mastery. And in today's hyper-competitive business environment, understanding your competition is just as critical as knowing your own products and your own services. So we're going to explore why this knowledge is indispensable and how it can elevate your business. In this episode, we are opening up The Closers Part 2 to page 39, Cash In on SNAFUs. I love that title. And Ben is going to cover topics such as spotting trends and opportunities, setting attainable goals, crafting winning market strategies, perfecting pricing and values, fostering innovation, risk mitigation, and building strategic alliances. We talk about that one a lot. So embrace this wisdom from Ben Gay III, and your business will thrive in competitive markets. And be sure to ask Ben about his mentoring program. This is an idea that originated when he was mentored by Dr. Napoleon Hill and has finally come to fruition. Good morning, Ben. It's Wednesday. I love Wednesdays.
Do you? The only thing significant about Wednesday, I hear people talk about hump day, so I'm aware of it. But the really significant thing is Wednesday morning, I do it to get it out of the way for the Thursday garbage pickup. So I feel like I'm really accomplishing something.
Ours was yesterday and I missed it, so now I feel bad. Oh well, it'll come again on Friday. Ours is Tuesdays and Fridays, which is really nice. So Ben, what is up and fresh and new with you?
Well, we're plunging on with several projects. Rex Sykes and I are about to launch a mastermind type group, and I'm doing the same thing with A.M. Williams and a financial expert named Lewis. And so I've got like three, I'm up to my eyeballs in mastermind groups now, to the point I'm probably not going to take any for a while until one of these fades away, because they really are. If you do a good job, they're time consuming. And it's the same reason I only take 30 to 35 mentoring clients at any one time. I say 30 to 35. Sometimes you got people who take up a lot of time, which is fine. They're paying for it. But when you got a bunch of those, the number drops down to 30 or 25. And if they're semi-normal people with normal needs, I've found I can go up to about 35. And that's what I love to do. I love helping people. I love sharing what I've learned over the years from all my wonderful mentors, many of whom are famous. And Dr. Napoleon Hill, of course, always comes at the top of the list because he's probably the most famous of any of them, and or the longest lasting. Zig Ziglar was famous and was a dear friend and worked for me and so on. But Dr. Hill is at the top of the heap. And I'd love to share. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but we call my mentoring program Mentoring Dynamics. And the reason is when Dr. Hill came to work with us, we already had two companies with dynamics in the name. Leadership Dynamics Institute was sort of a 1960s encounter group type thing, 4 straight days, no sleep. We started Thursday morning, ended Sunday night. And in those 4 days, you didn't leave the room and you ate what was put in front of you. And then we had Mind Dynamics, which was a spinoff of Silva Mind Control. I say a spinoff. We recruited their top instructor and basically did at Mind Dynamics what the Silva Mind Institute was doing. And then Dr. Hill and I were setting up mentoring dynamics. And the theory was the instructors, a train the trainer concept, would come out to California and spend, I don't know, a week or 10 days with Dr. Hill and me and some of our other luminaries that were hanging around the building. But the purpose was to get certified, to be able to honestly say, you know, Dr. Hill's a friend of mine. I've worked with him. I'm certified as a mentoring dynamics instructor and so on. And then he died before we could launch it. So
You always sound so offended by every time I hear you say that. You just sound so miffed. Like,
yeah,
how
it
can you
really
do that?
sort of aggravated me.
Yeah.
How thoughtless of him to die. But it sat on the shelf over 40 years. I didn't even use the word anywhere. And then somebody said to me, somebody who was scheduled to go and become a trainer said, are you ever going to do anything with that? That was great. That was the most exciting thing you'd ever done. So we revved it up again, minus Dr. Hill. And that's my mentoring program where I try to do for people what Dr. Hill did for me. There's an old, I think it's Chinese, but it doesn't really make much difference. If you want to know what's down the road that you're traveling on, if you want to know what's down there, talk to somebody who's coming back. And Dr. Hill did that for me, and I try and do it for other people. I've been down there. I've crashed and burned and been at the heights and met kings and queens and traveled all over the world, not all over the world, but because back in those days, you didn't go to the Soviet Union or China or so on, but of the semi-free world, we were everywhere, and I traveled over all of it, thanks to those affiliations that I had with those wonderful people, most of whom I was the kid. I was 25 when I became president of the big cosmetics company. And just about that time, 27, I think, Dr. Hill came into my life. And he was old enough to be my great grandfather, so biologically. So, and everybody else, for some mystical reason, was 12 years older than I was. William Penpatrick, Zig was 18 years older, but most of them were 12 years older. So I was the kid. That's the good news. It's exciting. You get to learn from all these people. The bad news is they're fading away. And I'm the kid, and still I'm an older kid, but I'm the kid that sort of got left behind when they all went to their just rewards. So I try and keep their memories alive because there were some really special people in those groups.
Well, there are people that, and I've looked around and I've asked you, can you think of anybody else that had these people around them on a regular basis? And there's nobody. You were unique.
No, yeah. I was in the catbird seat.
No kidding.
Yeah, Holiday Magic Cosmetics was the largest multi-level direct sales company on the planet, the cosmetic company. And then we had subsidiaries, Motor Oil Additive Company and Bob Cummings Vitamins and so on, all had exactly the same marketing plan, only the product changed. So we had not full-time employees, but independent distributors, hovered after we got running after a few years, hovered right around 1 million people at any given time. So if you wanted to be a big deal in speaking or motivational talks or what have you, you got up every morning, tried to plot and scheme how you could join us. That's where the action was. That's how we got Earl Nightingale to be the voice of the company, Dr. Hill to be my mentor, and dozens of other famous people. I have a little sheet I send out to somebody when I'm going to do a podcast, and I look down at sometimes and I think, wow, you know, it happens gradually. So you don't wake up in the morning going, oh, I knew and worked with 50 famous people. But when you look at the list, and it runs all the way from famous ministers and Dr. Bob Schuller, Dr. Norma Vincent Peale, et cetera, to the astronauts, and then all the way down to, and I don't like talking about dead people, but all the way down to Charlie Manson. He was at San Quentin when I was teaching my People Builders course there. So I met with him 3 times in his cell. And of all the people that I met and talked with, he was probably the most riveting and fascinating. Zig was a great guy, but I didn't sit and hang on every word and write it down. When I was with Charlie Manson, I paid strict attention to what he was saying because I was thinking, this is a one-time, lifetime opportunity to see how crazy and evil somebody can really be. And so anyway, it's been an interesting ride. As I've told you before, I answered an ad in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution Wednesday, September 15th, 1965, and all it said was, if you know anything about marketing plans and want to make more money, call this number. So I went into a phone booth on Peachtree Street, dialed the number, and I didn't know it, but when I was dialing in, and for our younger listeners, I do mean dialing in. Stick your finger in the hole.
Like a real phone booth, huh?
Yeah, like a real phone.
Never see those. I saw a meme the other day that cracked me up. It's like these 2 kids, a cartoon, and these 2 kids were taking pictures of a defunct. It wasn't even a phone booth. It was one of those pillars that, they had a phone on it. And somebody asked them, I think, well, what is that? I don't know. It looks like it's an archaeological dig. They really didn't know what it was. Okay, now I'm starting to feel my age too.
When I dialed in those numbers, I've always said I didn't know I was dialing in the launch code of a rocket ride I was about to go on, because it was we started succeeding after about 6 months. First 6 months were a little rough because I wouldn't listen to the training. I was too smart for that. But after I was told to do it the way they were doing it, or don't come back anymore, I knuckled down and did it their way, and it took off. We went from $100 a week. Of course, you got to adjust this for inflation. That'd be about $1,000 a week now. But Jimmy Rucker and I went from about $100 a week working for my father to $40,000 a month in our little cosmetic business. And that would be about $400,000 a month in today's money. So it was really exciting. And fortunately, I had been raised around money. I didn't have any, but my mother and father had done well. We belonged to the nicest country club in Atlanta. They did. I got to visit. But I was raised around success. So my comfort zone was set pretty high. I was used to having lunch with the chairman of the board of Coca-Cola, whoever that was at the time, because a membership in East Lake Country Club came along with it.
Oh, yeah, Atlanta.
And a lot of other movers and shakers in the southeastern United States. So I went off the rails a few times, filled with myself, but pretty much because it wasn't all new to me. When they said, we're all going to go get alligator shoes now. I said, I'm not, unless they've got golf spikes on the bottom. Well, it's going to be part of the corporate uniform. I said, not for me. I was raised properly. People who are raised by men who are raised properly don't wear alligator shoes unless they got golf spikes in them. And then we're going to go get diamond pinky rings.
Oh, ick.
And I said, no,
Are
thank
you going to be in the mafia?
you. Yeah.
That's where my mind immediately went, oh, geez, mafia and, brill cream hair and just ick.
Well, I was able to avoid all of that and not get pulled too far off track.
Well, good for you. So, and I love your stories. I really do. And I can hear one and then hear it again a year later and go, oh, I remember that. They're just such terrific stories. But that led you to where we are today. We're talking about the closers part 2 and how to cash in on snafus. And I love that title, snafus, because boy, do we all run into. I hit 3 of them yesterday before noon.
I'm so used to them. I hit them all day long and don't even take note anymore. And for you older people who were in the service, yes, we cleaned it up. It's situation normal. What do we say? Is all fouled up.
Yeah, well, it's another F word now, but yeah.
That wasn't the original version, but since they're going to happen, you might as well learn how to deal with them. And in that chapter, it's only a page and a half. Let me read some of it in case they don't have their books with them. And if you don't have your books with you, get them. The closers parts 1 and 2, they're the hymnals that we teach from here. Cash in on snafus. You must know your competition as well as you know your own products and services. This constant emphasis is usually designed to prepare you for selling against a competitor's lower prices, different quality, faster shipping, customer service, etc. Snafu selling, from the paraphrased World War II saying, situation normal, all fouled up, is a side benefit of that knowledge, a bonus, if you will. In order to learn as much about your competitors' products and services as you know about your own, you're obviously going to have to generate a great deal of inside information about them. This means you'll have to know not only what you're up against, but who you're up against and how they're performing. The one top salesperson we know studies not only his competition at the local level, he owns at least 1 share of stock in every publicly held competitor he sells against. This one share puts him on the stockholders list, giving him direct access to a blizzard of information about his rivals, material his customers would probably never see without this help. Now, in addition to straight competitive day-to-day selling, he has additional ammunition others don't have. This gives him opportunities to go after the weak spots in the competitor's soft underbelly, whether it's local, regional, national, or international, whether it is a local, blah, 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 or international problem the competition is having. You can rest assured his customers will hear about it at the appropriate moment. Understand he isn't selling negatively or knocking his competition. He operates as a third-party counselor when he sells, an expert, a source of industry information. In fact, he also frequently shares good information about his competition with his customers. He says he finds the extra tool of inside information especially effective in cracking open new accounts he hasn't been able to get into before, and in expanding business with his customers who've been giving him only token business in the past, and of course in maintaining those customers who already regard him as an expert in the field because his advanced in-depth knowledge of the current and future events simply confirms his position as an authority. Hang on, only 2 more paragraphs. During a particular sales presentation, his customer was beating him up about beat him about the head and shoulders because of his product's pricing. The customer ranted and raved that XYZ company listed virtually the same product at a price 17% lower than his. His response, he said, well, frankly, speaking, that price is totally irrelevant. That gave his friend the opening, and he needed to point out that the competitor had just lost a major supplier of their raw material and faced a long and bitter strike at their manufacturing plant. The point being, they weren't going to be able to supply the product at any price. The 17% differential was therefore meaningless. How did he know this? His stockbroker had given him a sell recommendation for the one share of stock he held, and the recommendation came with a complete explanation as to why he should sell. How's that for having a leg up on the competition? That's SNAFU selling at its best. And do you want to know the punchline? Not only did he get the business at the higher price, he's kept it because of the competitor's sales. The competitor salesman wasn't able to share this important inside information about his own company for another 3 weeks. Why? He simply didn't know about it.
Oh, no.
So watch for snafus, then spring into action while the wound is still fresh and bleeding. There's another thing, I think it's a separate chapter in the book somewhere, but I'll use it here. I have recommended to auto dealers and other people, but auto dealers always come to mind when I hear about recalls. I've recommended to some of my auto dealer clients and a couple of the manufacturers to make up a recall situation, which will drive people to your dealership to get that thing either fixed or checked out. And while they're there,
is that honest? I'm confused.
Beg your pardon?
Is that honest? I mean, is there really a recall?
Well,
no?
It gets up against the borderline, but you don't tell them there's something wrong. You tell them there might be something wrong, and they just want to check the widget and make sure it's functioning properly. But it gets them into the dealership, which, while the car's in the service bay, gives them, what do you do when you're in a dealership? You wander around, look at new cars.
Yeah, and you check, you have them check oil and, tire stuff. And yeah, I get it. Okay.
So Lee Iacocca rebuilt the Chrysler Corporation using that technique. Chrysler was always having problems with some gadget on the car, they said. And pardon me, because I should have told you listeners early, I was judged positive for COVID this morning. So if I sound a little scratchy or cough a few times, I apologize. Anyway, it gets them in the dealership, as I've told friends of mine who are building churches, trying to drive up membership. I say this lovingly to them. Sometimes a minister will get into the heavy stuff right off the bat. Jonah was swallowed by the whale. Well, a whale's throat is about the size of a baseball. So it'd be interesting to see how that was done. But it makes a beautiful story, drives home a point, and gives them word pictures to think about. But I used to tell my pastor friends, save the crazy stuff until I get them in the tent.
Well, and that makes sense. I mean, if you go in too hard, too heavy, and I see salespeople do this all the time.
Right.
Our spidey sense starts tingling. We're like, I don't know about this. And we stop listening. We really do.
Yeah, if you're ever seeing things on television, pardon me, commercials and so on, where they start out with a lie, and that's obvious. It wasn't necessary, but they start out with a lie, and I tune off. Since you'll lie to me in the first 2 or 3 sentences of your commercial, I don't need to hear the rest of it, because what I've now discovered is you're a liar. If you've got a good product that does something for me, because that's all the customer wants to know, what's in it for me. If you've got a good product or service that does something positive for me, tell me about it. If you can make it funny or lighthearted, fine. But just tell me about it. You don't have to lie. We have a guy here in the Sacramento area who's on television. I leave the news on all the time, so I'm forever seeing him or hearing him in the background. The first 10 callers get fill in the blank. I think it's a free air conditioning check or something, which is interesting, is I've heard it hundreds of times and I don't even know what he's selling because I tune out when he used to say, this isn't a sales gimmick. The first 10 callers.
Sure, it's
yes,
not.
It is a sales gimmick, a bad one. So just treat them fairly, squarely, decently, be upfront, tell them the truth. If you have a built-in objection, bring it up first and brag about it. There's one running, I don't know if it's national or not, but it's for AARP. I forget what that stands for, but retired people, excuse me, the American Association of Retired People, I think. And their management is left-leaning.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. And they're trying to get free stuff all the time for their members at the expense of the rest of us. And so on. So, but their commercial is great. Pardon me. If you have a built-in objection, bring it up first and brag about it. They are saying in this commercial, I don't agree with everything AARP does, but when it comes to Medicare alternatives or whatever, they are the best. So don't tune me out because I'm talking about AARP. I know about half of you don't like AARP, but it's to your advantage to take it to avail yourself of this thing that they offer. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to take the pledge. You don't have to march around in circles. But on this one thing, they really know what they're doing. And there's a great example of, as soon as I saw it was AARP, I said, well, I'm not really interested in anything they have. I've been a member for years because I fall for the fact that we get all the benefits they offer at restaurants. We don't have any of those restaurants except for Denny's. And we get a 10% discount. Huh?
Is Denny's even a real restaurant? I mean,
yeah.
I was in there one time many years ago and I didn't eat the salad. There's a bunch of us. I didn't eat the salad. Everybody else was sick for 2 days. I don't know why I didn't eat the salad because I love salad, but I was in a mood. I didn't want to be in Denny's. I didn't want to be with these people. I wasn't happy. I'm not sure I even ate anything and just drank tea, but I didn't get sick. But I remember that, they tried to kill everybody in my party. So there's that.
Well, the great example, we know a young couple who owned the local Denny's franchise. And I overheard them talking about something one day. They were looking for a house, but they didn't know who they could trust. I said, I know who you can trust. And I called my friend, got them on the phone together, and they bought a $375,000 house about a week later from him. So I'm very fond of these people. Gigi shares your distrust of Denny's. So
it was bad. And we were traveling. We were in hotels, motels, actually, and paper thin walls. I knew everybody was sick. I could hear it. I could smell it. I kept saying, oh my God. I should have just left. I should have gone somewhere else, but I was, riding with somebody else. That was a long time ago. And I never put myself in a position after that of not having my own vehicle.
Yeah.
So there were lessons learned. Thank you, Denny's. I appreciate that. Anyway, but we were talking a bit ago, and I'm not going to keep you very long because I know you're struggling with your voice, about spotting trends and opportunities. And I've shared this with you before, and I'll share it again because you're talking about commercials. Years ago, when I still had TV, which I can't even tell you how long ago that was, it was local TV, and I cut cable in 2010, I think. So I am not treated to commercials, which is a good thing because I don't have much patience for them. Excuse me. Now I'm coughing. But there was this one commercial that would pop up, and I would literally run across the house to go watch this guy. And he was a big, kind of a homely man, not good looking at all. And he wore a bright red jacket, and he made these huge arm, gestures. And he was a tire place. They're still in business, and in a cage and cage and cage, and you could barely understand him. And his thing was, you may not want tires. You may not, no, what was it? He said, and I can't remember the whole spiel, but basically what he would say is tired, about tires. They ain't pretty, but you got to have them. Well, duh. And I'll never forget this guy. They ain't pretty, but you have them. I mean, how do you beat that competition?
Yeah, that's excellent.
No, Ben, listen, I am not going to keep you because I know you're struggling with that. And I'm praying that you don't have COVID and that you just have the usual September crap that everybody seems to be, I was telling you in the green room, I talked to 3 of our friends today and yesterday, and all 3 of them have the crud. So I'm going to go with, you don't have COVID, you just have the crud. And that's
I hope so, but
diagnosis.
the COVID test that Gigi ran and got was positive.
How is she doing?
So far so good. I've noticed she doesn't spend a lot of time in the same room I'm in.
No, really? I don't know why.
So
Listen,
we all win.
yeah, well, just settle in and take good care of yourself today. But before we say goodbye, I would like to remind our audience to be sure to look for us in iTunes and anywhere else you consume your business podcasts. The truth is, you cannot throw a stick on the internet without hitting your partner in Success Radio. So find us and take us along on your success journey. Ben, go drink some tea and get some rest.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your sensitivity.
Okay,
I was going to try and get out of it without coughing again, but didn't work out. But I appreciate it. I appreciate our listeners, and look forward to working with all of you next week when I will be 100% cured.
There you go. I believe that. Go forth. Love you.
Love you, dude. Bye.